least a starter. I am disappointed that the media and the political parties, including my own, have gone a bit quiet on this. And I think I know the reason, and I think the reason is they don't take Mr. Wang Zhimo seriously, and they think that that at least donations from Chinese government-aligned sources, whether they're actually from China itself, are a rich source for all of the political parties, except for the Greens, who have their own sources, and they won't give them up.
Well, money talks. It's that simple, isn't it? Money talks, and the political parties don't want to talk when the money's chatting away. Well,
you got the Greens also got this bloke who owns What If, who gave them $1.6 million, and surprise, he's down in Tasmania opposing salmon farming, and I expect the Greens will line up with him.
Now, you've met Mr. Huang before. I think you met him late last year to discuss the issue of political donations. Did you not?
I did. I wouldn't accept a donation from him. I think that we were discussing the activities of Mr. Bob Carr, the Chinese-aligned former foreign minister and former Premier of New South Wales, who runs an organisation in Sydney there called the Australia-China Research Institute, which is largely funded by an organisation of pro-Beijing Australian businessmen like Mr. Huang, who are perfectly entitled in a free society like Australia to fund whatever they like, but who many people would say are expecting that think tank to follow the Chinese party line.
Well, look, let me put this to you. You're a Labor man, and the Labor Party benefit greatly from union funds, and no one would pretend that the union give money to Labor for any other reason than to advance union agendas, and that's not a criticism, that's just the way it is. So then let's go to the corporate sector. I mean, you have people arguing that when businesses donate money to Labor or Liberal or whoever, that they're just doing it as a donation, and that should be okay because the alternative would be to have taxpayer-funded campaigns. But surely when businesses donate to political parties, they're not donating as such, they're investing, aren't they? And all good businesses, if they're worth their weight in salt, get a return on their investments.
Well, you're dead right. And if you particularly look at the banks in the last election, it would not surprise you that the people who are opposed to a banking royal commission got the huge slice of the pie, i.e., the Turnbull government. And your argument is also right too, that the alternative is the public picking up these kind of things. I can tell you, as a person who's run in a marginal seat, particularly, life and death struggle against the Greens and the Liberal Party at the last election, I'm still $12,000 in debt. It's not just a one-way street. It's a really hard yakka, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. It would interest you and your listeners and it would surprise you that practically every federal candidate, Liberal and Labor, get not a dollar from their federal parties. What happens is they leave us all in the lurch, and they spend it all on TV advertising, and that includes the private donations. So, I mean, it's up to us as, even if you're a sitting member or a candidate who's likely to win, you've got to go out and raise the dough yourself, from sausage sizzles to, corporate donations to union donations. And actually, on balance, I think that that's not a bad thing. The way to handle it is to have very low disclosure limits. Unfortunately, the Liberal Party have opposed us in having only $1,000. I think that should be the maximum that you can give without disclosing it. being too minor underneath that, but it's currently 12,000. So we should have lower disclosure limits, and I think the proposals from many people in the media and others that we have quicker disclosure and that they be available, say within 3 or 6 months or whatever is feasible is also a good idea too, because what that means is you, Joe Public, can judge, the money that X candidate or X party got within real time, so you can make a judgment about, were they singing for their supper?
Yeah, although, I mean, surely, you criticise the coalition and the banks. I think that's a fair enough criticism, but then let's look at the Labor Party, your mob then. Okay, they take huge sums of money from the unions, and basically the Labor Party then sings from the union song sheet, and if they don't sing because of the money, they sing because the party's full of union people. So there's a relationship there between money and policy.
I mean, the trouble with that argument is we agree with the unions. I mean...
But the coalition probably agrees with bankers.
Yes, and by their deeds ye shall know them, and by their donors ye shall know them. Now, look, I mean, if we're standing up for people who are exploited at, at Grilled or at 7-Eleven, etc., and the unions have the same attitudes, well, I don't make any apologies for that. I don't think people have to be too smart to sort of make a judgment about this kind of stuff. But
they've certainly got plenty of weevils in the flour, though, in the union movement too.
Okay, but I mean, the public has a right to know where the money comes from. And, we can do it a lot better than we're doing it at the moment. So how about this for a program? No foreign donations, disclosure limit of $1,000, and it has to be declared within 3 to 6 months, which is a half or a quarter of what it is now, so the public can make an assessment about where the money is coming from. And that gets around having to put in millions of dollars extra to keep the political parties solvent at the level that they are now. One thing about if you had only public funding, who would benefit from that the most? The Green political party. So the public, when they make a catch cry for saying, only public funding, yes, it would cut out union funding. Yes, it would cut out business funding. But the people who would principally benefit from that would be Lee Rhiannon and her ghastly gang. So, I mean, people have to make a judgment about these kind of things. What's on balance, best for the public? And I think disclosure, openness, transparency is the way to go.
Suppose no system's perfect. It's good to catch up with you, Michael Danby. Thank you for that.
Have a happy summer, and let's get back to the cricket.
Yeah, let's do it. Michael Danby there, the Federal Labor MP for Melbourne Ports, 131873, the open line number. I mean, this is where the debate's going to head if it ever resurfaces, and Michael Danby's good to at least talk about it because what he's saying is right. Most politicians don't want to talk about the issue of donations because it's a little bit inconvenient or touchy for a lot of them. But we've got one of two options. We continue with private, certainly business, union, third-party donations to political parties, and those people aren't donating as such. They're often investing, and they want a return on the investment. In other words, they want some favourable decisions by the people they give the money to improve their business prospects or to do whatever. So we can keep going down that road, or the alternative is, and these things have to be funded, that we have taxpayer-funded election campaigns where parties get a fixed fee, a fixed amount of money, and with that they can do their advertising and they can't take donations. Now, that would probably remove an element of the concern around bribery and, all of this sort of stuff that goes on, and it does go on. But, of course, that puts the federal budget further into debt. So there's not an easy answer here. You might have thought about it. You might have one. I'd love to hear from you if you do. 131873 is the number. 2GB.